Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, when you try to give everything a chance, you tend to end up being pleasantly surprised. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm guessing you do because we're here. You're listening to us right now. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would really appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say it's most important, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, the moving image, and beyond. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when we recommend stuff to you and you come and read about it and listen about it. So please stop on by. On this episode, we got a fun one. And this was one that was actually quite surprising to be fun because I went into it kind of expecting something else, but I was pleasantly surprised because, quite frankly, I was laughing my head off. It's the show called Overlord and the Underwoods. And all of their episodes are actually now on CBC Gem, streaming for free, with ads, of course, but free, if you want to go check that out. It is a family-driven show, basically, of this alien character, Underwood, who is in witness protection, and he goes to see his cousin, 7 times removed, or his 7th cousin, and he's basically hiding in the suburbs with this family of the Underwoods, and it's campy, it's fun, there's a lot of throwback to stuff from the 70s and 80s that are going to make people laugh, people from all ages laugh, and it is an absolutely hilarious piece of television, which is good for all ages, and it's like I said, it's fun, it's comedy, but it's also true to sci-fi, and it's true to a lot of stuff from the 80s, with Jan Arden voicing a robot, and there's FX specialist Roger Christensen, who does the character design and some of the visual effects work on the show as well. And it's a fun ride. But we had the unique pleasure of talking with the show's creator, who just happens to be Canadian, or well, co-creator, I should say. But he was a writer on NBC's The Office, and has been a showrunner on various shows, and a showrunner on this one. His name is Anthony Q Farrell, and we talked about just sort of the origin of the story and so very much more. And I hope you enjoy the talk because I know I did.
So the premise for this all started with Ryan Weisbrot, who was an exec over at Cloudco. He created Buddy Thunderstruck. He's a really great dude, and he had this idea that he brought to Marvel Media with an alien who was in witness protection with a family on Earth, and they kind of developed it for a little while. Sometimes as an animation, as a live action, they weren't sure what to do with it. And then they brought me on board. This is 2017. This is like 5 years ago.
Right.
And they brought me in because they know I'm really good with developing characters and families. And we really wanted the family to be as strong as Overlord. So we just created this space where it was Overlord. We figured out his backstory, why he was the second worst villain in the entire universe. Figured out why he was in witness protection, which is he ratted out his boss, Colossatratus. Figured out his connection to the family, which is he's the 7th cousin once removed to the mom, Flower. So that's why he's been placed as a burden upon them. And it's just one of those things that throws back to those great, we wanted a family comedy, something that adults could watch their kids. Everyone could sit together and watch the good old days. Back in my day when there was only one TV in the house, everyone had to watch something that we could all watch together. So we kind of wanted to create something that would work for kids 4 to 104. That's kind of who I say it's for. Because I have a lot of friends who are grandparents who they're like, I watch it with my 10-year-old or my 8-year-old. We're both cracking up. We're both laughing. And so I feel like we've succeeded in that side of things. We're making it funny for everybody, because who doesn't like an intergalactic rude boy. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of like, who doesn't want that in there?
Who's also an
team?
emotionally insecure wreck. I mean, it's so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can think about how villains become, like, there's a lot of insecurity there, right?
Yeah.
To become that evil, there's a lot of insecurity. So we definitely play on that for a lot of the comedy. And Troy Feldman, who is the body and the voice of Overlord, does such an amazing job of bringing that character to life.
How did you manage to just find sort of, I guess, maybe the kid-friendly sarcasm? Because, I mean, that's totally what this is. Because, I mean, if it had gone a little too cute or a little too harsh, it wouldn't have necessarily worked.
I have a lot of experience working on, family shows and also on adult shows, and the writing staff that I have, we've all worked for kid shows and for adult shows. So we know that line, and a lot of us actually have kids, so we know that line and what's funny to us and what's funny to kids. So we just kind of delicately try to figure out ways to keep it in the ballpark. And also the thing too is we have 3 broadcasters on this: Nickelodeon, CBC, and BYU TV, and they all kind of want different things because they have different audiences.
Right.
So we kind of had to figure out what the pocket was and just try and stay. And so it kind of forced us to make it in a way that it would work for everybody. So in a roundabout way, that's kind of the answer to your question there. Just kind of like we kind of had to. So we a lot of trial and error. And
I mean, it's such a great balance. What was funny to us. Go ahead.
I was just saying, it started with what's funny to us, and if it's funny to us, then we'll explore it further and see if we can make it funny to everyone else.
And I mean, it's such a great balance with the family as well. I got to imagine the casting process, putting all this together, was a bit of a trip, just to make sure everyone was sort of on board and understood sort of the tone of the material.
Yeah, we told, it's funny because I know Daryl. I've known Daryl for a while. When he was talking about the tone, I was like, think about it's like Modern Family meets Star Wars. That's kind of what we're looking for. We wanted to feel like it could be a primetime show. So that's what we told, and that's kind of where we went for. And then the director of our first episode, April Mullen, she really wanted to nail the tone and the look of the show. And there's a lot of like gags where people are revealed or people kind of show up out of nowhere. So she was like, I want to do zoom lenses and kind of be able to pop in and out. And I said, that's great. And so she developed an amazing look for the series. It made it feel really slick and really great. And the VFX team at Playfight, I can't say enough nice things about them, and our whole crew. Everyone was just amazing at trying to build a series that was epic in all the right ways.
Well, I mean, I love that you work with April too. We get another Canadian, and I mean, it's just, she really does bring such a great look to the show. And I mean, I'm kind of curious when you're putting something like this together, because, and I mean, I will admit a little bit of ignorance on this, but because you're an executive producer, you're a writer, you're a showrunner, I've always been kind of curious what that job entails. Like how sort of deep into everything are you when you're the showrunner on something like this?
I'll describe it like I described it to the Nickelodeon orange carpet. You're kind of like one of the parents of the show, right? Like it's
right.
Everything has to come through you. So from the very beginning of the process, all the writing comes through me. I'm in the writing room, making sure that the writers are working on the right things and selecting which shows we're going to work on, which ideas to move forward. I deal with the network in terms of like figuring out the tone of the show. And I also kind of work with them. If they give notes that I think don't work, I also kind of say, I don't think that note works for these reasons. So I'm protecting the creative of the show, protecting the broadcasters, all those things. And then when it comes to being on set, I'm there to make sure that the directors have a support system, the actors know what we're doing, just to make sure that everything feels like it's going the way that it should, or the way that, we creatively have figured out. So it is kind of like you're the CEO of the creative side of the series. And you work with your line producer and the producers to make sure that you don't go over budget, to make sure that the broadcasters are getting what they want, all those things. So it's a big job, definitely, but it's a fun job.
Well, and that fascinates me too, because I mean, as a writer, I can imagine, like, because I mean, obviously it's your baby, you're very invested in it emotionally, but at the same time, you have to be able to take a step back from it all at the same time and sort of see the bigger picture. Like, I'm always fascinated, like, are you able to do that? Or is it something that you'll learn to do out of necessity, just sort of to stay sane at the end of the day?
It's a different skill set for sure. Like I was running this BIPOC showrunner boot camp for BIPOC TV and film. And one of the things I talked to the future showrunners about is it's not a writing job. Yeah. That's part of it, yes. But you are also a manager of writers. You are also a manager of a budget. You're also a manager of a lot of different things. It's funny because I told those writers, those future showrunners, I said, I actually got a lot of good training for this job from being a supervisor at Canada's Wonderland. You know what I mean? Like I was, I worked at Canada's Wonderland for 6 years, and for a few of those years, I was a supervisor at the rides and learning how to manage schedule, learning how to manage people, learning how to talk to customers, like all those things sort of started preparing me for a job as a showrunner. Like that equally prepared me as writing on The Office. So, and that's like, working with great showrunners, it also prepares you because you're watching them work things out and you're picking up great tips from them as well. So I had a lot of great showrunners in my career that I looked up to and that I stole all kinds of great things from. So that's kind of how that works.
Well, I would imagine you have to be a bit of a filter as well, because I mean, I'm certain that, if the family, especially in the show, wasn't as strong as Overlord, there would be so much temptation to just have Overlord go off on his own adventures. But it really is Overlord and the Underwoods. It's not Overlord ... and other people kind of thing. How do you sort of strike the balance to make sure that everyone sort of gets their fair share in sort of the universe that you're building?
We worked really hard to make sure that the Underwoods were just as fun. Like the idea was, if we could make the Underwoods clear enough and funny enough that they could be a show on their own, then that would mean that when we added Overlord in, then you really have double the punch, right? So that's kind of what we aimed at. We just try to make sure that the characters were really fully fleshed out. They had wants and needs. And the thing with this show is Overlord is super evil and the family's super good, which is in the in the opening credits. But what we want to do is get to a place where they still slowly start to come towards each other. Like the obvious thing is the Underwoods are going to make Overlord a much more compassionate being. That's obvious. But Overlord, who's evil, he can rub off on the Underwoods in good ways too. Like Weaver is a great example. Like, because of Overlord, Weaver becomes more confident in what he's doing as a kid. So there are good things about the evil Overlord that can rub off on the family as well. And hopefully they start to meet each other toward in the middle as things progress. And that's kind of like the overarching theme for the series is, you've got good, and you got bad, but somewhere in between is really where you really want to be.
No, I mean, I will admit, I've only seen a few episodes, but there seems to be such potential to sort of expand the universe. Like, is there something that you're even thinking about, or is it just a question of trying to sort of keep it in its bubble and keep it safe where it's working right now?
Well, we do in the finale, the last 2 episodes, you get to meet some more people from space.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good.
yeah. So there are some more people from space that come in the last few episodes. I'll give you that. There's like, we have a kind of a Han Solo character that kind of you meet in episode.
I love it.
And then there's a whole bunch of fun complications. And if we get a season 2, we definitely want to make sure that we open up that space, because we have Roger Christian, who worked on the original Star Wars. He invented the lightsaber. He designed Overlord and ROFL, and he's chomping at the bit to do more with us. He's like, I want to design some more stuff. This is such a fun place to create. So we're hoping to open up that world as much as we can. But the thing was, we really wanted to focus in, hone in on the family, start from there, and then be able to build out as we go.
Well, and I mean, I think that's something else I love about it, because I mean, obviously there are some visual effects in the show, but you're not necessarily overdoing it. And I mean, I think as a fan, and especially sort of as an old school fan, like growing up with a lot of this stuff, I think one of my favorite episodes was just the one where Overlord and gets shrunk, and they're sitting in his pocket, and just sort of the visual of that was just like, that was perfect. And I mean, just it felt very much like a throwback. How fun is it for you guys, especially in the writer's room, to throw in almost these old school sci-fi sort of moments and throwbacks, just if only to amuse yourselves during the whole process of it all?
It really is just to amuse ourselves. I remember we were talking, I think that episode was pitched by Ryan Belville. And I remember thinking, this is what, because I said from the very beginning, no limits, writers. Like, whatever you think is fun, or we're in a science fiction world now, and a lot of the writers were chomping at the bit to work in sci-fi. So he was like, what about a shrinking episode? Like, Overlord shrinks them, and we started getting into it, and I was like, perfect, because especially at the time, my son was watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids over and over and over again on Disney Plus, and I was like, my 7-year-old loves that show. Like, it makes sense, because it's nostalgia. Like, I loved it, my kid loves it, it works, right? So we kind of were like, well, what's our spin on this? How can we tell a story with our characters in that world? And so we had an immense amount of fun, especially on set, like having gigantic buttons. We built a gigantic airplane for them to stand in. So it was a lot of fun on set, figuring it all out. So it's a stupid funny show and it's stupid funny to work on. I have to say, it's one of the most fun gigs I've ever had in my life.
No, I mean, I gotta ask. I mean, this is a bit of a silly question, but I'm kind of curious. Like, what are the shows and the movies that's kind of got you into this business in the first place? Because I mean, even just in watching this, I mean, I see a lot of throwbacks. I see a lot of winks and nods to things that have come before, which I mean, for me as a fan, I just love. So I'm kind of curious. What were your influences growing up?
I mean, it all starts with Muppets. I think for me, it's
Nice.
I feel like I aspire to be Kermit the Frog, and I kind of am living that Kermit the Frog life now as a showrunner. Kermit was the showrunner of the Muppets,
Right.
and there was just all sorts of ridiculous characters swirling around him. That is my life. So that for sure was a big influence, and I think Star Wars, Star Trek, even. I watched a lot of like TGIF growing up, like
right,
Family
yeah,
Matters and Full House and all kinds of, like, even just like there's some Golden Girls. I can't wait. Like, we didn't do a Golden Girls episode this year, but I feel like if we get a season 2, there's probably going to be a Golden Girls episode where
I love it.
the Buffy turn old, because it's just, for me, it's like, it's the nostalgia is great for people like who are our age, and we want to reconnect to things that we loved as kids, but also it works for
Exactly.
kids today
Yeah.
as well. It's still funny. Like we were watching episodes of Family Matters with my 7 and 14-year-old, and we were all enjoying it. And like kind of remembering that's how TV was. It was for all of us. It wasn't for just it wasn't for 6 to 12. It wasn't for 18 to 24. It was for everybody. So we're trying to get back to that.
All right. Well, promise me that if there's a DVD or Blu-ray of season 1 and there's a behind the scenes, I want you with your arms flailing like Kermit, just running through the writer's room.
I promise you, it probably happened once a week. So it's a lot of that.
No, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, because I mean, you've done a season, you're waiting to see if there's a season 2, and I mean, it's part of the business that there might not be. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, how do you sort of, because I mean, obviously, when you're doing something like this, you've got to throw yourself into it 110%, but tomorrow they may just tell you, okay, let it go, move on to the next one. Like, how do you sort of professionally sort of manage that balance between sort of being all in on a baby and then having to know that you're okay, it's going on the shelf, it's done?
Well, I mean, I understand that it's this business is a privilege, to be able to work in it, be able to have worked in it for as long as I have, and have made as many TV shows as I've made. I'm a very lucky individual. So whatever I get, I'm happy about, right? So if we only get this one season, I want to make sure it was the best season that we could make with doing it in COVID, doing it the way we did it. I feel really strong about what we put together. It feels like a really, really fun 20 episodes. And so if we don't get more, I've built a family of people who will love each other for the rest of time because of this experience that we've had, and we'll just find something else to work on. So yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of level-headed about it that way. I understand the business, and I've obviously done shows where it's gone a season, or it's gone 5 seasons, or it's gone more, and eventually everything comes to an end and you have to find something else to work on, and that's the reality of our business. But yeah, we just keep those connections with the people that you've made, and hopefully you find some more fun stuff to work on.
Well, that's probably the right way to be. And you know what, man, I do hope you get a season 2 and a 3 and a more, because man, I was laughing my head off the entire time, man. It is such a fun show, and just congratulations on that, and congratulations on all the work. And you know what, thanks for the time today, man. This was fun.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having us on.
All right.
Having me on. Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.